Welcome to another episode of Bent Not Broken. Heartbreak and trauma may feel like the end of your story, but here it's the beginning of a bold new chapter. I'm your host, Coach Deborah Griffiths, and this is the space where women rise, rebuild, and rediscover their purpose. Remember this truth: you are bent, not broken. Most people think getting fired at 63 is the beginning of the end. And for David Nassif, it became the beginning of everything. After spending nearly 40 years building a career, David suddenly found himself unemployed, staring at a terrifying reality. Despite decades of hard work, he was on track to run out of money by retirement age. The odds were against him. The timeline seemed impossible, and many people would have quietly accepted defeat. But David refused to believe his story was over. And by age 69, he had transformed his financial future, becoming a self-made millionaire. Today, David is a #1 Amazon hot new release author whose message is resonating with people of all ages who secretly wonder, is it too late for me to start over? Welcome to Bent Not Broken, David.
Thank you, Deborah. I'm thrilled to be here with you today.
Great, let's get started.
Okay.
So you were fired at 63 after nearly 40 years in your career. What was going through your mind in that moment when you heard those words?
Well, like you said, I was 40-year career, but at 18 years with that particular company. When they told me I was no longer needed, I tell you, at first I was numb. I didn't believe it almost. But then I just wouldn't wish that day on anybody. When I did the math, it was brutal. If we drained all of our savings and all of our retirement, we were scheduled to be broke by 65. When most people are sitting back saying, okay, it's time to enjoy life, we'd be like, I don't know where we'd be. And I'm thinking, at this point, who's going to hire me at my age? But, Deborah, that wasn't even the hard part. I mean, it was very hard, but the hardest part was driving home thinking, how am I going to tell my wife, Mary? We had been married at that point 30 years, and she did not deserve the mess I just threw our life into. Anyways, after a couple months of dead-end job searching, and my heart wasn't in it. I no longer wanted any more corporate life. Couldn't think about it, but I had to keep a roof overhead. I had to put food on the table. I needed to do something. So I'm sending out these resumes. I'm doing interviews, and I'm telling you, the people I'm talking to, I mean, they were very polite and professional, but they basically said in so many words, David, the company that fired you did the right thing because you're of no value anymore to us either. It's like, what are you going to do? So anyways, I decided to take a huge risk. And I went to work as an independent sales agent on straight commission, no salary, no safety net, no benefits. The first months were brutal, cold call after cold call, constant rejection, rookie mistakes. I heard so many no's. But, Deborah, as I reflect back on that experience, at the time it was very difficult. But I honestly believe all that rejection, all that resistance I was getting was necessary for me to build the mental muscles I needed to punch through that dark period of my life. After 10 months of grinding, I had an incredible milestone. I was suddenly making more money than my good paying corporate salary. And for a brief moment, I thought, we made it. But then I realized we didn't make nothing because I've been making decent money for my whole career. And look where it got me, on the verge of financial collapse. I need to learn how to invest. I need to learn how to build wealth. And I didn't have time for a bunch of investment theories and people trying to make commission check off me. So I dove in myself. I read 21 books, listened to 13 podcasts faithfully, read blogs, newsletters. Every time I had a good idea, I put it on this one piece of paper. I kept adding to the paper. Once the paper filled up, I said, okay, I can't go beyond one piece of paper because I want to keep it simple. So I would take the worst idea off and put a better one on. I kept refining it to a set it and forget it approach. 6 years later, at age 69, I did what I thought was impossible. From terrified of being broke to a 7-figure portfolio and real financial freedom. Deborah, I now know it is never too late to rewrite your story. Because if I can pull it off starting as late as 63, anybody can with the right direction. And I truly believe that.
I'd like to go back to a couple of things that you said. A lot of people, especially in sales, hear that word no a lot, or even coaches who try to get clients, anybody who's trying to develop a business, we hear that word no, and it's N-O. And I recently came across a neat acronym for it, meaning next opportunity. So, not to take it so true to heart that you've been rejected, but change your mindset and change of it as thinking in terms of your next opportunities, just maybe the next call you
Yep.
make.
I like that. And I also have heard, and this is so true for me, no just means not right now. Because I've gone back to many people who said no to me. Multiple times they said no to me. And sometimes it was a fourth or fifth visit where they said, yeah, you're very persistent and I like what you're saying. Okay. But if I took no as no and that was it, I would never have been able to build my company.
True. Now, you said you had to come home and tell your wife. How long had you been married and how
30
did she react?
30 years. And I tell you, Deborah, that was the best thing I ever did in my life is marrying Mary. But when I told her, of course, she was so supportive. She was, honey, I don't know how, but I know you're going to figure this out. You're going to work it out. And she believed in me more than I believed in myself. I'm going to be honest with you there. But I looked in her eyes. I'd known her for 30 years at that point, and I could see she was trying to hide it, but there was concern. And that just broke my heart. I did not want to put her through this. She's just nothing but a wonderful mother and wife. But I mean, I didn't have much control at that point. And so, anyways,
Right. And that so often happens, but kudos to you for having a partner who believes in you
yeah,
and can support you and through that. Not everybody is
no,
so lucky.
I agree.
Were you close at any time to just giving up?
Well, if I could, I'll tell you about my darkest point, which wasn't those two. Okay,
Okay.
those are close. This was happened a couple weeks, maybe a month later or whatever. And my wife said, honey, there's a big sale at the store and I want to go shopping because I'm trying to conserve money because we're going to be out of money in the store. Can you come with me to help with the groceries? And I said, well, sure. I had nothing else to do, Deborah. I was just sending out resumes and nothing going nowhere. So we get to the store, walk in, and I looked around, and here's what I saw with my eyes. Nothing but women and babies and baby carts crying. Now, I'm sure there were plenty of men in the store, but I didn't see it. Okay, all I thought about is, what am I doing here? I should be working, providing for my family, not in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week at a grocery store, shopping. I felt like I had a sign on my chest, biggest loser. I really felt like that. And when my wife was checking out, I was standing at the edge of the checkout thing waiting for her. And Deborah, I felt like I had this mental corporate straitjacket on me. I wanted to break loose. I wanted to get out, but I couldn't. They took the corporate identity away from me, but I was still clinging on to this. Like, this is who I am. I'm a corporate guy. I have a company car. I have a great pay and wear nice suits and stuff like that. No, that's not who I was anymore. And I just was clinging to something that wasn't true. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but who was it going to scream to? Who was it going to run to? I never even told my wife about this, but I just felt like, oh, that night I went home and I really thought about it. And I said, David, the corporate world has told me loud and clear, I am of no value anymore. End of story. I need to wake up. I need to tell the guy in here who's hiding and scared and nervous, get out. We're going to fight this thing. I am not going to go down like this. I am not going to let my wife go down like this. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to make something work and get us out of this mess. That is my low point. And that's when I woke up and says, I got to do something that's different. Starting my own company was not easy. I had emotional scars. I tried twice in my 40s to start my own company and failed miserably. One time plunged me into six-figure debt that took me years to pay off. So it wasn't a casual thing. Oh, I'll just start my own company. And I never tried that before. No, I tried it twice and I failed twice. The entrepreneur world told me I was of no value. The corporate world told me I was of no value. Here I am in the middle. What am I going to do? But I said, no one's going to hire me, so I have to hire myself. I got to do this. But here's the one thing I had going for me, Deborah. I learned lessons when I failed in my 40s. And those were hard lessons to learn, but I kept them with me. And I said to myself, okay, I am going to try this again with my own company, but this time I am not going to make those same mistakes I made before. I am smarter now than I was before on a lot of things. And I was competing with Deborah, with most people who were half my age and had twice the energy, but I had something they didn't have. I had the experience, I had the knowledge of my past and my successes and failures that I could bring together. And I actually made a one-page compass for my company And every time I learn things and I put the lessons I learned in the past, I put them on there and I keep refining that and refining that. And that gave me a tremendous competitive advantage, both one for building wealth and one for building my income with my company, growing that. So,
What were some of the mistakes that you made in your 40s that you learned from and no longer applied in your 60s?
well, though they still apply to my 60s on the mistakes I made, but I wasn't going to repeat them. They're really kind of personal to me. I'm glad to share them with you, but I'm just saying people might say, well, that's you.
Okay.
One of them is I found out that I'm not that good at selling tangible products. My skill is selling intangible products. Okay. Only, but if I really believe in them. Before I was selling nothing but tangible products. Okay. Also, the other one was, oh, yeah, repeat business. My past job companies, they didn't have much repeat business. It was just designed to get that. Well, I says, no, never again. I need that. Once I make a sale, I don't want to just keep making new sales. I want to repeat over and over again. That was another one. Another lesson was, oh, employees. I'm not the kind of guy who likes to manage people. I mean, I really have my hands full managing myself throughout. So, yeah. And I was managing people back then. And the last thing was debt. When I pledged into a six-figure debt, it says, no more. I don't care what anyone says. I am not going into debt for a business ever again. And I did. So those four things I held true, and I did not violate them at all.
Okay. You call yourself the Chihuahua in the junkyard dog fight. What does being the underdog teach us that success never can?
The underdog helps you understand that whatever the obstacle is, you can overcome it with the right strategy, with the right mindset, kind of like a David and Goliath situation. And you don't have to fear. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't have fear. I did have fear, but I think courage is, it's not the absence of fear. It's the ability to act despite the fear. And that's what happened to me. I was afraid. Sure, I was. I was a corporate guy. I was a salesman in terms of going cold calling. I was afraid of rejection, all that kind of thing. But I did act anyways. And Deborah, after 9 years now of doing this, I can walk into any business and cold call it. I'm not bragging. I'm just being honest. I've inoculated myself from that kind of rejection. And I just walk in, and whether they say yes or no, I don't take it personal and whatever. And I've learned, I got my pitch down much better. And so I think being underdog is actually an advantage sometimes. At least it was for me, I think.
You mentioned fear, and so many of my listeners are coming out of divorce or toxic relationships or some kind of trauma or transitions, and fear holds us back. And I think this is where you're referring to the being the underdog. And it takes a lot of tenacity. And Chihuahuas have tenacity
They do.
the grit to overcome and just like, okay, that dog may be bigger than me, but I can do this and move forward and succeed and learn from it.
Yep. You know, your show is called Bent, Not Broken. I was very close to not qualifying for a show because I almost was broken. I really was. I came so close to being broken. But
Me too.
Okay, good. So we're
Me too. So are a lot of listeners,
Yeah.
you know, as well. When you go through something major in your life, you feel like you're broken.
Yeah.
And it's overcoming that mindset. It's like, okay, just got a little bent. I'm not destroyed. I'm still standing. Here's another day. Let me make the most of it.
Yeah. When I realized I was a failure for 40 years of building wealth because I made good money and I should have had wealth. And then I realized that the corporate world didn't want me anymore. And then I realized that I was a miserably failure at the entrepreneur world. I really felt for a while like, am I broken? I mean, this is really, I mean, where do I turn? Who fails that much in life? You know, I mean, I don't know many people. I have a whole list of failures. I'm not sure many people fail as much as I did. But anyways, it was all for the good. Those are all lessons that I was able to internalize and to put on a clear, like I call my compass. And so I had laser focus. I didn't repeat them, and I stayed on the right course.
So let's talk a little bit about your one-page wealth compass that you created. Tell us a little bit about that and how it could help our listeners with their finances.
I will. Can I first tell you the story that inspired it, and then it might make more sense to you? So, when I was going through the darkest period of that experience, I heard a true story that really was like a light bulb moment for me. I'll just share it briefly. Scientists at the Max Planck Institute did an experiment. They placed people in the center of a dense German forest, and they told them to walk in a straight line to the edge. Now, these were confident and capable people, but when the clouds covered the sun and they lost their point of reference, the GPS tracking they were wearing showed they were gradually starting to walk in circular motions. Some of them were actually ending up right back where they began. And yet each and every one of them, Deborah, was absolutely convinced they were walking in a perfectly straight line the entire time. That is my life story for 40 years. Working hard, making good money, thought I was doing the right kind of investing and building wealth, but ultimately just going in circles, ending up back where I started. That's when I told myself, that story told me, I said, I need a compass, but not a metal compass like traveler shoes. I needed a one-page compass that would give me that 30,000-foot view so I don't go off on tangents, because I'm a big going off on a tangent person. And so I couldn't do that anymore. My runway was too short. It was more like a helicopter pad than a runway. I didn't have much time at all to keep making those same mistakes I'd been making. So what I did is I put them on a one piece of paper. I'll just show it to you. And I'm going to give it to all your listeners for free. I'm not here to pitch nothing or anything.
Sure.
But this is it. It's 2 columns. One is the 9 trail markers to financial independence. The other one is the 5 North Star principles. And it just tells me from the beginning to the end what to do. And this is what I distilled from the 21 books and the 13 podcasts and all the other things I was studying. Every book had a little nugget, a gold nugget, or a couple of it, but no one had the whole picture. I says, I got to bring this all together for me. I didn't write this to share with anybody. This was a private thing for me. But once I got through it, I says, I think I need to share this. I really do. It's so important. That's how it works. Basically, what I do is I have a 2-minute meeting with myself once a week. It's on the calendar, Fridays afternoons. And I just go through this with myself, and I look at where I'm at on my trail markers. I look at my North Star principles if I violate anything. And it just really helps me stay focused. Have you ever read a book, Deborah, and you've got a powerful idea that you say, this could change my life? And then 2 years later, you come across the idea again, you go, oh yeah, I forgot about that idea. I meant to do that. Well, when you're on a 2-minute meeting with yourself every week, you can't do that, because if you're still on step 3 and you aren't budgeting for that thing, after a couple of weeks, you say, hey, I think I got to do something here because I'm not moving anywhere. And so it's kind of like a behavior modification method privately with yourself to keep you on that track. I remember once I had a meeting with myself, and I realized that week I had made an impulse purchase. Okay. And one of the rules is you have to wait 24 hours before you make an impulse purchase, because half the time, if you wait 24 hours, you realize I don't really need that. Anyways, I didn't do that. I just made the purchase. And so I caught myself. And so this is the nice thing, Deborah. Next week, I didn't do that again. Next week, I didn't do that. If I hadn't caught myself, who knows how many more impulse purchases? I could have made them a string of them. It could $10, $20, $50,000 after several years. Well, what this does, it protects you. It stops you from making those mistakes and catches it before they get expensive. So it keeps you on the path to building wealth. And what it is each one of these, someone says to me, David, this is like debt freedom, but you have a few sentences, but I need more help than just a couple of words here. Well, that's where this comes in. This is C chapter 4. And the book has a whole chapter on the debt freedom and the different ways to get out of debt. So this is like the 30,000-foot executive view. This is like the ground game. Take a right at the light, take a left at the stop sign. When you combine them, you get like laser-like clarity that few people have when it comes to the world of finance. And that's how it all comes together, if that makes sense.
And for my listeners who are listening via audio, what's the name of your book?
Oh, it's called the one-page wealth compass. And they can get this free download of this PDF with all the secret sauce in it. I'm just giving it free. They go to onepagewealthcompass.com/free, and they can get it. And they'll also get my newsletter and get some tips and virtual coaching type things. Okay.
And then they can order your book online too?
Yeah, there's a link. They can either just go directly to Amazon or any bookstore they'd like to buy, or
Great.
they can go and get the link on my site.
Great. I'll put all of that in the show notes. Looking back now, do you think getting fired at age 63 was actually the turning point that forced you into the life you were meant to create?
Absolutely. It was a gift, Deborah. I didn't feel like a gift at the time, but looking back on it now, it was the greatest gift of my career. I should send them a gift basket and a thank you card for firing me. I really should, because here's the honest truth, and it's embarrassing to admit this on your show, but I'm going to do it anyways. I knew 8 years before they fired me, I should have moved on. But who quits a job in their late 50s now, making amazing money, having all these great benefits with not a lot out there for a 50-something, late 50 person to get a job? I just didn't have the guts or courage. I wish I could tell you, Deborah, I told those people to take that job, and that wasn't me. And so I didn't have the courage to do that. And they gave me the gift doing it. I heard somebody say once that they were going through a dark period of their life, and the burden just seemed almost unbearable. And they had a prayer, and they says, please, God, relieve me of this burden. I don't know if I can handle it. And the response they got back in their mind was, I love you too much to deny you of this experience. And I am so grateful God loved me too much to not meet that experience because I was praying, please get me out of here. Please help me to solve this thing quickly or whatever. And he says, no, you have to go through this. You really do. I am a stronger person. I am a happier person. I am a better person. I'm a more giving person than I ever was as with that corporate straitjacket on. And it's for me, it was freeing. It was freeing in the most wonderful, blessed way I can think of.
Isn't it ironic? You just mentioned that you were thinking about moving on, but were in essence afraid
Yep.
because everything was safe.
Yep, exactly. And I guess it relates to what your show is about too, because I have known several women who have been in abusive marriages and they were afraid to leave them because he had the money situation and they're trapped. And that's how I felt at that. When I was at that grocery store, I felt trapped. I felt like I couldn't escape. And that's another reason I'm sharing this with people because I don't want anyone feeling trapped. Everybody can do this. It's in a different way than I can. I'm not going to say in 6 years, everyone's going to be a millionaire, but I'm going to say in 6 years, you're going to be a lot better off than you are now. And you're going to be much freer than you ever could imagine.
So by following your own one-page wealth compass, you've became a millionaire.
Yes, I did. And if you want, I can give you some specifics on it because it might be helpful to your listeners to understand kind of a little bit about what happened. Well, first of all, I doubled my portfolio value 3 times in a short 6-year period. A lot of people say, David, that's not possible. The market didn't increase that much. You're either delusional or a liar. Well, I'm neither. Let me explain what I did. First of all, I wasn't chasing crypto, trying to time the market or day trading. I was doing the exact opposite of that. And here's the crazy thing, Deborah. When the market is down, I was thrilled. When other people were panicking and selling, I was buying more shares at discount prices. My only regret was the market wasn't down more during that 6-year period. But what really surprised me was the math. And it might be interesting to hear this. There's a thing called the rule of 72 in finance. And what it says is, if you're getting a 10% return on your money will double every 7.2 years to roughly every 86 months. Once I got my compass in place and started following it, my first double didn't occur in 86 months. It occurred in 30 months. The second one, 13, the third one, 29, for an average of 24 months, way less than half the expected 86-month time frame. But the secret wasn't the returns, Deborah. I was doing 3 things I just didn't have a clue about for 40 years. And I like to share them with you because I think it might make sense. When I got my paycheck once a month, I would take the minute it hit my account, I took the money, a portion of it, a percentage of a predetermined percentage, and it came right off the top into a special savings account aside. So I wasn't tempted. I couldn't do it before I even paid my important bills, any bills before I spent a penny. The second thing I did is I took that money out of savings and I invested it in the right kind of investments. And for me, when I researched, found out the best was called low-cost index funds. I only own 2 of them. This sounds simple, incredibly simple. My approach is I own one where it owns a little tiny piece of every publicly traded stock in the United States, every company, and the other one, every publicly traded stock outside the United States. So Deborah, I literally own every publicly traded stock on the planet. For me to go to zero, to go broke, the entire world economic system would have to collapse to nothing. And if that happens, we got bigger problems with money, okay? So in other words, I can sleep good at night because I don't want to be worried about Wall Street and what's happening. When you're that diversified, one company can go under, it's a little blip on the radar. It's like you got thousands of other companies, okay? And the last thing I did was market volatility. I used it to work for me finally instead of against me. So many people let their emotions dictate their deal and their investments. And that's why they end up buying high and selling low, which is the opposite of what you want to do, which is what I did for 40 years. Okay, once I figured it out, my emotions got put to the side and I had a system, I had a compass, and I just followed it. And I could care less what Wall Street was doing. Picture this, Deborah. Say you go to a department store and they have a big sale, 50% off sale. Do you ever go up to the clerk and say, hey, I don't want no 50% off. When's it going back to retail? I only pay full retail for things. You would never do that. They think you were a crazy lady if you did that. Okay? But yet people do it all the time with the stock market. Oh, the market's down. I got to get out and get the cash. No, that's when you want to buy. It's on sale for over 200 years, Deborah. Every time the market has gone down, it has not only fully recovered, it has gone on to reach new heights. For me, 200 years of data I'm very comfortable with that. It's just changed my whole perspective on things. Bottom line is I was able to build my wealth twice as fast, but here's the important part, with half the risk compared to how I was doing it before or compared to how so many people are doing it today. And that's what made a big difference in my investing.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So if someone listening today feels scared, stuck, or ashamed because they think they're running out of time, what do you want them to remember about hearing your story?
I want them to understand if you just start today, you will improve your situation. Okay. Will you be a millionaire in 6 years? I have no idea. I can't claim that. But will you be a lot better off in 6 years? You will, or 4 years, or 5 years, or even 1 year, you'll be better off. And what I'm saying is, stop worrying about, oh, I'm so far behind. Other people are so far ahead of me. I stopped worrying about what other people said that night after the grocery store scene, Deborah, because I didn't have the luxury of worrying about that anymore. I was in survival mode. And to this day, I don't care about flashy cars or fancy suits. I am comfortable. I love my life. It's wonderful. It's a very comfortable life. But what the Joneses do is nothing to do with me. I love the saying, comparison is the thief of joy. There's always people wealthier and less wealthy than you. So why worry about that? Why not just improve yourself? And that's what something like a compass will do for you. It will improve yourself. So next year from now, you can look back and say, man, I've made some real progress here. I got to pat myself on the back. And then the next year, you even go more and you more. And so who cares about how much David makes or Deborah makes or the neighbor makes? It's you improving your situation. So it's not too late. It's never too late to improve. When's it too late to improve? Never.
And it's never too late to start.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. I'd like to turn this a little bit and do a quick lightning round. Whereas I'm going to ask you a question and you can just respond in 1 or 2 words,
Sure.
whatever comes right off the top of your head.
Okay.
What's one financial habit everyone should start today?
Having some kind of guide, whether it's the compass I'm going to give you for free or your own thing, but don't just wing it. Winging it is really bad when it comes to money. And then emotions take over and then forget it.
Biggest money mistake people make after 50.
Well, I'll say it's the biggest mistake people make before or after 50, and that is tiny fees. They're like termites, okay? You don't even notice them until your financial foundation crumbles. And that's what I would say.
Okay. Coffee shop or homemade coffee?
I don't drink coffee.
So, I don't either. Okay.
But if I did, I'd probably say homemade.
Okay. One word that describes your journey from 63 to 69.
Freedom. Freedom.
Oh, I like that. What's harder, losing money or losing confidence?
Oh boy, I would say losing confidence is harder. You can always get money back. You can always get confidence back too. I think confidence is harder.
Best investment you ever made that wasn't financial?
Well, marrying my wife, that's not an investment really, but I would say knowledge. Benjamin Franklin said the best investment you can make is knowledge, and I totally agree with that sentiment.
He is a man of true wisdom. He has a lot of good sayings. Yeah.
He does.
Penny wise is a penny earned. I think that's one of his too.
I mean, so.
What's one thing you wish you understood about money in your 30s?
Oh, I wish I had even half my compass, just half of it. I don't care what half you know, because I just was winging it. Here's the thing too. Making money and building wealth are separate things. I thought because I made good money most of my life that I was good at building wealth. And that was a false statement on my part. I didn't wake up until 63 when I was forced to wake up. But a lot of people who make good money don't realize that this is a whole separate skill set of building wealth.
If you could give your 63-year-old self one sentence of advice, what would it be?
By 63, okay, clear direction beats misdirected speed every time. For 40 years, I had misdirected speed. Once I got clear direction with my compass, it made the whole thing. So I'd say 63-year-old, get clear direction. Study, put on a piece of paper. You don't have to call it a compass. Just do whatever you want to call it, but please do that.
What does rich mean to you now?
Rich means to me much more than money. You know, it means freedom. It means to be able to design my day the way I want to design my day, when I have to worry about anything. It means being able to give back, to go with my brother to St. Mary's Food Bank and volunteer there on a monthly thing. We have a little thing we do. Freedom means to go on a podcast like this and share my compass with people. Freedom means my son has joined my companies and I'm mentoring him. And it's that to me is real freedom.
And finish this sentence. It is never too late to
rewrite your story. I don't care how bad you think your story was. It's not too late. I
would agree. David, this has been a fantastic discussion. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your life with us. And I'll put everything in the show notes for our listeners.
Thank you, Deborah. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Bent, Not Broken. I hope that this episode reminded you that even through life's toughest moments, you are bent, not broken. If this message inspired you, please share, rate, review, and subscribe, as it helps us reach more women who are ready to rise and rebuild. And until next time, keep living bold and walking in your purpose.